Welcome home, Raiders! This week, a new Garrison feature appears on the PTR, and it's gonna be huge! Plus, more cool stuff for your alts, your questions, and so much more. This is Convert to Raid number 169.
You're listening to Convert to Raid, the podcast for raiders in the world of Warcraft.
Convert to Raid Command Center, from the power station, from wherever you want me to be. Well, I'm going to be in Minneapolis, Minnesota, no matter what. Today is January 25th, 2015, and it is now 11:15 a.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you so much for joining us from all around World of Warcraft land, and hello. My name is Pat Crane, host of this little shindig known as Convert to Raid. And yes, still raiding Airy Peak US, along with my Convert to Raid crew, the Convert to Raid cronies. I don't know. So let's get to them. The players are here. Let's go first to Hollyweird, California, to the Funky Monk. It's Coltrane.
Fortune cookie say.
Oh, not first up. Oh boy.
Yes. The best race for Affliction Warlock is Worgen, because they have the most ticks. Huh? Because they have the most ticks.
Well, it's new. I'll give you that one. It's new. I'll give you that one.
Yeah.
All right.
Come on, no?
I don't know.
I'm waiting on the chat room here. There's a delay.
Yeah.
I'm waiting on the chat room to see.
While we're
Mega
doing
bongos!
Oh boy,
we got bongos coming in.
All right. Well, let's go to Sweden to the person that's on the screen now that we can all see. From Sweden, it is the one, the only Treckie. Treckie, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me again. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. I also want to give you the big applause, but I have to wait. There we go. All right, big applause for you. Had to wait for a second. But thanks for joining us. Always good.
Don't kill your mouth.
always good to have you on the program, because you're a smart fish, especially when it comes to all things tanking. So very, very nice to have you here. So Coltrane, who do we have to thank for that? I don't know.
First off, somebody killed the moth. There is a dead moth at my feet now. This beautiful moth was on the tree, and now it's dead. So what have you done, people? All right, anyway, that was sent in by a fantastic individual. Now, this guy sends me a fortune cookie every single week, and I want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate it. He sends me great fortunes every week, so I was very proud and very happy to use this one today. This was from, now I'm probably going to mispronounce this, El-Tithez Nefariousness in CTR, a recovering altaholic. I hear you, brother.
Right.
I hear you. We've all been there. So big shout out to him. Thank you so much for the submissions that you give me every week. I really, really appreciate it. So, but isn't that great? And I got mega bongos on that one.
Right.
All
and you have
bongos.
a very huge dead moth at your feet.
And there is a dead moth at my feet.
Right. Giant purple dead moth.
What have you done?
I don't know. Trekkie, man. So a lot of things have been going on with you since the last time we talked, right?
Yeah.
You're doing a lot more streaming. You're really you're raiding with a bunch of new teams. What's happening in your world right now?
So yeah, a lot of things have happened the past month really after Progress, and it's been a lot to wanting to really focus on my streaming, and my priorities changed a lot. Everyone who's really been watching my stream for the past year will have noticed that I really enjoy streaming, and it's a lot of fun. So my priorities changed for this tier, going into it, and going out of this tier. I really want to focus on streaming, and that's made me really want to change, do more stuff about that. So 3 weeks ago now, I think, I started raiding with a heirloom, which is Kungen is also a streamer, and it's his skill basically. And I felt like a good fit for me to be able to stream Progress and raid and just have fun with the stream and stuff around that, instead of going for the world firsts I did in Method, really.
Right. Well, I mean, I can definitely understand that, as we were talking about before the show.
Yeah.
As soon as you start trying to step up your game, right? And I can only imagine what it's like at the level that you were at with Method. I mean, going for the first kill globally of a boss. I'm like, how can you? That's just unimaginable for me. But the team effort that is put into that, into each character, into all the different strats, into everything that you do, that's got to be really, really tough. And if you're having fun now with the new team and everything like that, that's awesome. So, congrats on that.
Yeah, no, for sure. But another thing is really that, like, just doing my stream, my days, right? We had the one raid a week or whatever with the guild. But doing my stream for the rest of the week had always set me apart from the guild, pretty much. And that really felt like I wasn't into team spirit as much this tier as it was before, because it was basically me. And I felt like I basically alienated myself from the guild due to streaming. And that's why I really felt like I want to focus on just streaming instead.
Sure, man.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. That's awesome. No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. It totally does. And I mean, because that was the big question, because it was like Treckie left Method, and like, what's going on? And why did Treckie leave Method? And that kind of thing. So
I was there for 4.5 years. So
I know
that's a long time, man.
That's a long time.
And I'm curious too, 4.5 years at that high level. I mean, world first progression. I mean, what is that like as a raider, being in the best in the world for that amount of time? I mean, what was that whole process like?
It didn't start out like that. It was on that like that for the past 2 years. The 2 years before that, we was always in like Paragon's heels, which is exactly what happened in High Mall.
Yeah.
But like always like striving to get better and striving to like take that top spot when in Mists it was a good feeling. It was a great feeling after tier, feeling the sense of like accomplishment with the guild. And all that, but in the end, like between progress, it's a very drawn out process, and it's really only one raid a week, right? So it's not much you do with it other than those very, very like condensed weeks of progress.
Right. Yeah, it's got to be just craziness. I don't know.
That's awesome, man.
I feel like we're moving through things fast with the Asparagus Initiative, and I can only imagine what it's like for you guys. And just doing that stuff. And even the raid team that you're on is no slouch either, because they're top 100 or so, right? I mean, so they've already blasted through all the mythic bosses and all that kind of stuff, and I'm just like, I'm in awe of anybody that can beat up those bosses so quickly. So there.
And it's got to be nice too, having a lot better hours, now. I mean, what was kind of the raid schedule in Method? Was it like every day for how many hours a day were you guys raiding?
So that's a big thing that people don't really always think about when they look at the World First Racing raid. It's a lot about just putting down the hours. So from the moment you wake up, you dedicate yourself to progress. So you wake up at 10 a.m., you raid for like 16, 20 hours the first day, obviously with breaks and food breaks, and take a stretch break and all that kind of stuff, and then 20 hours later you go to bed, sleep 8 hours, go back up, and then you start raiding again.
Jeez. And I've always wondered too, like, so when we're raiding, we talk strategy, you know what I mean, and some of the strategy guys talk. Are there like breaks? Like, are the officers like, all right, everybody just chill for 10-15 minutes, we're going to discuss this strategy? Is there anything like that going on?
Oh yeah, that definitely happens between pulls, and sometimes it gets drawn out. You don't always know if you're gonna have like it. Sometimes it's a 10-minute discussion, sometimes it's an hour discussion.
Really?
It definitely is, and especially like the first few pulls, you do like 20, 30 pulls on the boss. You basically just throw your bodies at it, and then after that, you basically, if you're stuck at something, you need to revision it or see what you can change, right?
Right.
So, and then you start getting into discussion, and people draw like diagrams, whatever, how I should move the boss and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes on Dark Enemies, for example, back in Throne of Thunder, that discussion lasted for like almost 2 whole hours without a single pull. But it was still worth it because it got us the kill faster, because we knew what we were gonna do.
Right.
It's just funny because it like you discuss for 5 minutes, some people start going AFK, people feel like they don't have much to contribute. too. And then everyone talks like the nitty gritty strategy for like an hour and a half, and then it's like, okay, now we're gonna do. Let's see, ready check, see who's here, and it's like 15 people. Like, what do we do?
Right.
Did you repeat all of that?
So that even happens at the high end too. That's not just all. Okay, all right, good.
All right, then we're not the only team. Okay, that's good. That's nice to know. So for this tier, just to talk a little bit about this tier and put it all kind of in context for everybody. For how long did it take you guys to go through all the Mythic bosses this time around? Because it was over a week, right?
No. All of Heimdall took 5 days. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
That's right.
Kill it.
That's right. Because it took us 2 weeks because you guys weren't there yet, I don't think. And then like right after our show, you managed to kill it and all that kind of stuff. So, but that's a lot of hours. That's what, 80 hours of raiding?
Yeah, that's a good
or
chunk
so.
of time.
I mean, oh my gosh.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Nice.
But then again, like that's the time. Then it's kind of weird this tier because it's like you want to set up with all gear, a lot of characters because the next tier is coming out in like a week now, and it's a lot more draining than it usually is when it's like one tier and then nothing for like half a year, right?
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
if it's a raid tier like that lasts 5 days, it's pretty okay. Usually they last for maybe 8-10 days.
Yeah.
Pretty much roughly the same schedule. When it gets over like 7-8 days, you try to cut down the hours because otherwise you're just gonna have people like that get tired of it and just
Right. And
they just don't want to be around there.
And then they rage quit afterwards and they quit WoW forever.
Right. I was actually curious too, Treckie, because with this Heimdall was the first introduction of Mythic level content of 20-man in Mythic, being obviously world first, major raider. What did you think of this new difficulty of Mythic of the 20-man? Do you think it was a success? How was the balance and all that jazz?
I definitely think it's a success for sure. It's not harder than Heroic used to be or anything like that. But it's just that the fights are designed for one size, right? 20 people. There's no like you can't bring in more people. You can't or stuff like that. So I think it's really good to have one set size and have the same difficulty there. They can make the fights, tune the fights a lot better, make the fights like work the way they want it to be instead of having to do a 10-man fight and then having to like scale it up to 25 and scaling gets iffy and all that kind of stuff. So overall, I think it was a good tier. It was an introduction tier raid, so we'll see how it like ends up being in the long run. But I don't think it's going to be very complicated later on.
Well, how would you stack this up against other raids? I guess as far as before we had the heroic difficulty. So I mean, how would you stack that up with the heroics that you've done in the past? On any team, I guess. So
it's hard to say. I think it was more challenging than Mist's introduction, but Mist's introduction raid was also 3 different raids and also slightly staggered. So it's a little bit hard to compare, but I think it's a better raid introduction than in Mist's at least.
Cool.
It doesn't have anything to do like Throne of Thunder was so much better in pretty much every single way.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, and especially the Lei Shen fight. I heard awesome things about that. I mean, and I think yes, I have done it on heroic mode, but it didn't really. But it was way past the time of where it was actually a challenge.
You were level 100, and
maybe.
right.
I had all the Siege of Orgrimmar stuff that I needed. That's for sure. So it was just, and then Raw Den was just kind of like, oh, whatever. Who cares?
Last question about Mythic too. What was one of your favorite fights on Mythic? What did you enjoy the most?
I really enjoy Brackenspore as a fight. It doesn't come out to be that complicated and like hard. But it's a good fight, I think. I like the movement. I like the mushrooms and all that kind of stuff, and take advantage of them. So no, I really do like that fight. Margok is growing on me, but the knockbacks are really, really frustrating as a tank.
Yeah, I suppose.
Running all over the place.
Right. So you didn't like twins because of all the running? Is there a lot of running for tanks on twins? Because there's a lot of running for everybody else.
Not really. I mean, if you're tanking the whirlwind ad, you run out with it and then run back in. You obviously have to dodge a fire just like any other melee, but that fight was so awesome on PTR. I love that fight, and it was complicated. It was hard, and then he came out and it's like, okay, it just died.
Really?
Oh, did they nerf it from PTR?
Yeah. Well, it was really really hard on when we tested it on normal first, and it was really like, oh, I'm really looking forward to heroic, right, or like mythic.
Yep.
And then we see them like, oh, this was very complicated. We'll live, and then.
We're losing your mic
a
little bit. We're losing your mic a little bit, I think.
It was going in and out.
I don't know.
Like somebody was tapping on it.
Yeah, it's like
it might have been me. But,
I guess the Swedish National Guard.
right. The internet in Sweden is just kind of today.
Right? They're like, are you on the internet, sir? Ding ding ding. Are you on the internet? Ding ding ding.
I don't know. So, are you? Is your mic okay now?
Is it sounding good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you're good. Now you're good.
Now you're back to
I have this button here that I press sometimes that make go like crazy, and it hasn't done anything for the past year, so I press it every now and then, and now apparently for some reason it started doing something. So
it started doing something. That's awesome.
I wouldn't push the button marked crazy. I would tend to not hit that button. If it's labeled that, I'd avoid that at all costs.
Right.
But at the time, before your mic started getting crazy, you were talking about that on PTR. It was like great, and you're like, oh, I can't wait to see Mythic, twins on Mythic, what it's going to be like, and then you cut out. So what happened there?
And then when we did get to test it on Mythic, it was kind of underwhelming because they changed some spells around and stuff like that. And because remember in the beginning, they did not have shared health pools, so you killed one and then you killed the other.
Right.
And then when he just Mythic was kind of underwhelming, and then he came out on live and we killed it in 1 or 2 tries, and it's like, okay, well, that fight wasn't very complicated then.
Right.
But he had so much potential, and that's what I really feel like that should have been harder.
Because they did change the shared health pool, right? So, I mean, yeah, that's... I remember.
I don't know if it's still in the dungeon journal, but before it had the buff that when one dies, the other one gets more empowered, right? So it was obviously intended that you kill one and then you kill the other one.
Right.
But
for whatever reason, they changed it.
Well, as a Windwalker monk, I love that they have shared health pools. Yes, I love that. That's the good stuff right there.
It's 2 for 1.
We always say in Asparagus Initiative, when we are wiping on a fight, we say, Method one-shot this, guys. We always say that.
On any boss, it doesn't really matter.
On any boss, yeah, exactly. So, and we're actually right now struggling on Mythic Bracken Spore. But I think it's our strat, because we always wipe at 80%. So that, to me, says strat. When we always die at 80. It's always like the whole night.
Yeah, it's always the same point in the fight. And it's like, you can't do anything different other than change your strat. It's like, nope, everybody's at max. We're all doing our thing. And then somebody just ends up dying and wiping us. So
right. We are 8 tanking it. So that's what you're supposed to do, right?
It's a 15 tank fight, 5 heal.
Right. Yeah. And I don't see, but not a lot of deeps. I don't know. We're not getting that fungal eater down. I don't know why.
The secret is to walk into the water because the boss kills himself then.
Right.
That's
true.
That's
what we should do. Yeah, that's totally what we should do.
That's what it is. We'll cheese it.
We'll just cheese it. See, another thing that I wanted to talk to you about before we actually get into the news part of the show and all that kind of fun stuff. Let's talk a little bit about tanking. Let's talk a little bit about tanking in Warlords. It's been a while since we've talked to you about that stuff. How is I guess balance for tanking? That's kind of the right word. Not really. How are tanks doing in Warlords? Are they equal strength, or what's going on?
You can definitely feel like there's 2 tanks that are top of line. That's Paladins and Warriors. Especially now, Warriors recently got buffed with being able to do a lot more damage, but they always had the mobility that was really good, and they had the survivability that is really, really strong. And they still have that, and then now they buffed a little bit excessively their damage output as well. And
Gotcha.
Paladin's been great all this tier. Nobody really praised the Druid, which is kind of funny that there was no real changes to 6.1 about Druids, because no one really plays them, and they're not really that useful. compared to the other tanks.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
A lot has to do with their active mitigation not being very useful. Like the boss is hitting you, and what you can do, you can press a button that basically has to give you a 50% chance to avoid an attack or die.
Right.
That's not very useful when the other tanks have basically they use a button ray and they will reliably take less damage. They won't die, but they will take more damage. So instead of dodging completely, you will take damage, but you won't die.
Right.
So rolling the dice for progress is never really a good idea.
And what about blood DKs and monks?
They're both pretty good. Now, monks get really strong when you have gear. So they were further behind in low tiers, like going into raiding and all that kind of stuff. But with 670 gear, 680, they get pretty strong. Not really competitive with warriors and paladins if you look at it really, really close. But they do good. And then you have the DKs that are great for 5-mans. They completely destroy everything. And then for raids, not so much.
Why do you think that is? Is it just because mitigation stuff again?
Yeah, it's the same with druids. They get a shield. They heal themselves, they get a shield, and that's pretty much it. And if the boss hits through that one in 1 second, then you're sitting there waiting for the next death strike, right? So
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, Pat, all I got out of that was always gear up the monk. That's all I got out of all of that. Yeah.
And all I got was warriors are awesome, and so are and paladins are okay. They're good. I don't know. Well, that's cool. Now we should probably. And last week we talked about the Asparagus Initiative on this show, and I played some music. I played this music, and Coltrane kind of freaked out a little bit.
Jeez. I got so pumped up. That music, and you just get so pumped.
Yeah, I know. So I changed out the music. We talked about it before the show today, and we've settled on this music. We're going to try this out. We're going to see if it works. And so let's get going, because now it's time to check in with the official Mythic team of the Convert to Raid podcast, the Asparagus Initiative.
Yeah!
Right. Maybe that's too much. I don't know.
No, I like it. That's
you like
trust me, that is a huge improvement.
Okay, all right.
Over last week.
All right, sounds good.
That is night and day.
So Darius usually does the update, but he's not here. He's at PAX South this weekend. So Colt, you're going to have to let us know what's going on with the team.
Well, the old Asparagus Initiative. Now, last week we downed Mythic Twins, which was great. So very happy about that. And this week we actually 2-shot Mythic Twins, which is fantastic.
And I'm going to give the big applause for that. Yes. I think that was pretty cool.
That was cool. And what happened was, the week prior, we had spent an entire raid night wiping on Mythic Twins, but throughout the night, we got better and better and better. We made progress throughout the night. And then the next raid, we killed them, no problem. And then for this last week, we then 2-shot them because we made all that progress.
Right.
Now let's go to Mythic Brackensport.
And we cleared in like record time and all this kind of stuff. I mean, we blasted through heroics. We just went like an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, something like that through heroics. It was great. Perfect.
It was great. And unlike Mythic Twins, we made zero progress
we really didn't.
Throughout the night on Mythic Brackensport. So I got to, Treckie, how are you supposed to... Now, I've heard different strats. Do you 3-tank this fight? Do you 2-tank this fight? What do you do as far as like the tanking goes for Mythic Brackensport? What do you recommend?
You run 2 tanks, I think, is what everyone else is doing. It's pretty simple. It's 1 boss, 1 ad, and you tank 1, and then you swap.
Right.
Well, apparently we were wiping on 80% every time. Now, Pat, why were we wiping? We were wiping the whole night. What happened?
I think some of it was that the tanks were taking too many stacks of whatever the hell it is. I can't remember what it's called. And so maybe that was throwing us off, and maybe the ad wasn't dying as quickly as it should have.
Right.
But
he was getting up to like 8 or 9 stacks or something.
Yeah, and then it would be then it would just be like a 1-shot, and it would be like, oh, the tank's dead. Oh, sorry. Oh boy. And we're running enough heals, so it shouldn't be a deal.
I could definitely see adding a 3rd tank will bring control to the fight. If it's necessary or not, I don't know, but if you're doing the fight right now, you probably won't have too much DPS issues because you're gonna have so much gear.
Right.
So adding a 3rd tank will add control, like a lot of other fights. And tanks aren't doing useless DPS either, so
No.
Right.
Depends on your tanks.
They're doing pretty good. They're doing pretty good. And our off tank is a druid. So there.
Well, then
hit thrash. Hit thrash
Then
a
we're
bunch
screwed.
of times. Right. So we're totally screwed. Some of that too was Coltrane, was that we didn't necessarily have both of our main tanks there for that fight, and so there was a little bit of a learning curve as well.
That's true. We did bring in some new tanks, which did a great job, by the way. Leonidas did an awesome job, and no, you're totally right. But it was just we always stopped at 80%. So I may have whispered the officer and say, "Hey, maybe we need a strat change," and the reply was, "The strat's fine." So I'm saying that no, it isn't. If we're dying at 80 and not getting better, it's the strat.
You might be right. I'm
just subtly. I'm trying to put it as subtle as I can. Just real subtly. Might need to relook at the strat.
Screaming is subtle. Yes. I agree. So the other quick thing before, so that's enough of our rating night, because I think this week we'll again blast through all the content that we've done before, and we'll be able to get more people that haven't done or haven't been with us last week. We'll get them some more gear. We have some new people on the team as well, so we'll get them some gear, and then we'll probably stall out on Bracket Spore again. So be looking forward to that on the stream. No, I really hope that we blast through Bracket Spore again. That's a fun fight, though. I think you're right, Treky.
A lot of fun.
That is a really fun fight, especially all the avoiding of random things. The waves, the mushrooms, the exploding mushrooms. Oh, yeah. It's terrific. The other thing that I want to talk about before we get into the news is I just want to, again, thank everybody over at the Guild, over at the CTR Guild. And basically, this last week was our 2-year anniversary. Very, very good to see everybody celebrating. There were lots of events going on. We've got a lot of people, their mounts of various doing of things, like the Corehound mount, like the Black War Bear mount for the Alliance achievement. All that kind of stuff. And it's because of all the great people that help out with the events over there, like Tur Arts and the entire team of people. So thank you guys for putting that stuff together. Everybody had a lot of fun. And yeah, so you can always check out what's going on in the Guild by going to converttoraid.com/guild. And yeah, that's where you check it out. All right, let's get into the news.
Calling all raiders from around World of Warcraft land. This is Raiding News.
All right, it's time to check out what's happening in Raiding News. And first up, we this week, Blizzard actually posted a preview of the Blackrock Foundry on worldofwarcraft.com. And it follows last week's announcement of the new raids starting on February 3rd. That's when normal and heroic start up.
Right around the corner.
Time to get into the new tier, or into the tier, I guess.
Right.
And this post does cover all 10 bosses, but first I just kind of want to ask Treckie, you've done some of these bosses on the in the beta, and I'm guessing probably on the PTR as well, right?
Not on PTR. They opened up PTR like yesterday, or Friday, and I haven't really been in there. They're testing some of the initial bosses on normal mode.
Gotcha. So
basic.
So what's been your experience with these bosses? What do we have to look forward to? Are there some cool abilities, some cool bosses that you really liked?
There are some bosses that show a lot of potential, and I think the big one in a lot of people's minds are Iron Maidens. It's a chaotic fight, and it has a lot of potential for being both awesome or completely horrible.
Now, for those guys that don't know what Iron Maidens is, what kind of fight is it? What happens?
So it's basically three ladies, orc ladies that you fight, and then you go over to a ship, which where you defeat a mini boss. 5-6 people go over to a ship and defeat a mini boss or whatever, and then get back, and you keep killing the bosses, and then you rotate all the time. It's a lot of different abilities, and in the beginning they have a few abilities, and then they get energy, and they get a few more abilities, and then get even more energy, and they get even more abilities. So the amount of abilities you have in the end, the last 25% is just insane. There's so much to do.
Oh boy. So,
while still sending half the raid group over to do.
So it sounds like kind of a combination of like the Dark Shaman, right? Because they keep on getting more abilities as time goes on, right? And kind of like Shaw of Fear, I think, where you go to those different pavilions and kill the little mini boss guy and then come back.
Yeah, a little like that.
Sounds crazy.
Holy cow. That's awesome.
It could really swing either way, depending a little bit on how tuning and how annoying some abilities get in the end. So
right.
I'm looking forward to seeing the fight, though.
It sounds cool. It sounds.
And how
cool.
is Gruul compared to? Because we remember Gruul from good old Burning Crusade. Is it the same fight or the new mechanics in it?
It's pretty much completely different. I don't think there's a single. There are some elements that, like the petrification and stuff like that, are still there, and it's different. But it's like the essence is still there to some extent. But in pretty much every single aspect, he's different.
Wow,
that's awesome.
Cool. And
I gotta ask too. There's one oh I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and Gruul is the first boss, right? Of that tier.
There are actually, I think there's going to be 4 different bosses you can choose between as you enter.
Wow.
There's 3 wings, and then in the first wing, which is probably going to be this one is going to be Gruul and Gorger, which is a little Goran.
Gorger. That name. I don't know. Looks fun. Okay, Colt, what were you going to ask?
Oh, so in fact, that's actually a good point. So you recommend for teams some of the easiest fights are actually Gruul and Orgurger are some of the more easier ones to start with?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Because one fight that does not look simple or easy is the Hans and Franz fight.
Oh, the Hans and Franz fight, man. It looks like you are on essentially like an outdoor grill of some sort, and you're just avoiding flame the entire time.
I think melee are gonna have a fun time with that fight, and ranged are really gonna hate themselves because there's so much moving all the time.
I actually really like this.
If you're not a hunter, that's annoying.
If you're not a hunter, if you're not a resto druid, you're gonna have a bad time. And I play a resto druid, so yay me.
Right. Well, and I will say, you can throw me in that list because I saw some videos of Hans and Franz, and essentially, for those that don't know the fight, you're on this conveyor belt. And there's these metal presses that are pressing down on top of you like constantly. So you're always dodging these metal presses. And then there's this like super hot metal presses things that you got to dodge as well, plus all the boss abilities. It's insane. I saw a video of this and I said, yeah, I think I'm going to go melee for Warlords. I don't think I'm going to be going ranged. Yeah. Like, holy cow.
Yeah.
So
and that looks like it's known as Stampy Stamp. So
Stampy Stamp. That's
right.
Yeah. That's funny.
But as far as schedule goes, February 3rd, Blackrock Foundry opens with normal and heroic difficulties available. And also that world boss, Rockmar, who, as we all know, is the jukebox hero.
Oh, boy. Oh, man. I don't know what. You give me to play all this stuff all the time.
I tell you, well, there's this guy, Jack Cassidy on Twitter. He actually drew me a jukebox with an asparagus on it. And you get this achievement. Yes, and he made this, and it says, unlock the achievement, Glory of the Jukebox Hero.
Wow.
This on Twitter. It's awesome. It's a jukebox, but with like an asparagus on it. It's unbelievable.
That's really cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. But yeah, February 10th, difficulty unlocks. The 17th, and we start our raid finders and all that jazz.
Yep.
In Treckie, have you been enjoying this new kind of LFR? I understand you're a world first guy, but the easier difficulty, do you think that was a good move by Blizz?
I think it's a great move, that normal and heroic scale. It's like you can just add a person, the person comes online, person has to go, you just add or remove like a person and it's still fine. You don't have to like look for another replacement, you know? And I think that's a great move. Just being able to go with whatever people you have online.
Yep.
At the same time, it's very tedious for top guilds because you can go there and clear and get gear multiple times, or you can only get gear once, but that makes you have to bring new characters every single run. And trying to gear up is basically makes you have to run a lot of runs.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you should be used to that by now, right?
Yeah. kind of been the same thing before as well, but now you have to get 30 people instead of 25 per raid.
Right. Have you done the LFR stuff at all? Any of
yeah, LFR. Yeah. On gearing alts and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's really it's what they what would they say like
they called it tourist mode before.
Yeah. I think that's that or cruise control. It's pretty much
Cruise control.
Right.
Well, and it does seem to be that way, at least for this introductory raid. I mean, it hasn't been that difficult. I think, I personally was involved in one wipe, maybe, and it was because the tanks weren't they just weren't there. They just weren't doing anything. They were just like, whatever.
No, but I think that's fine for LFR.
Yeah.
I'm completely fine with that.
Yeah. No, I'm cool with it too. I think that they did a great job with that, and with the new looking for raid system that they have, where you can just kind of say, "Hey, I want to do a normal run of whatever." Then you can just find people that way and bring them in, and I think that's awesome. So all that stuff. Now we should probably talk about patch 6.1 because that is the new hotness. That's the new talk of the town. Right. Ooh. I mean, we have the new raid coming out, that's for sure. But we also have patch 6.1. We have a bunch of updates, mostly from Wowhead, because they've been doing a lot of data mining.
Oh, yeah.
And the first one is a new Garrison feature. And Colt, I want you to explain it if you can, because this sounds really, really cool.
This sounds insane.
This sounds
really insane. Cool. So new Garrison feature.
Yeah.
It's titled Summon a Raid or World Boss.
Yeah.
One of 5 new visitors may visit each day, offering a quest to anyone that visits the Garrison. One of those being that you can actually summon a raid boss or a world boss in your Garrison. Yeah. Why would you ever want to do that in your Garrison? This is where I go to relax and chill, and now I've got a raid boss? That's insane.
Well, it's like we understand that you're in your Garrison for a lot of the day because you're just hanging out waiting for raid to start. Well, how about we bring the raid to you?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
I think this is fantastic. Treky, what's your opinion on this whole deal?
I think it's interesting. They mentioned it was gonna scale up and down a bit, so you don't have to bring like 80 people.
No, it's between 10 and 40 is what they've said.
Yeah.
So that's really cool as well. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. It's another thing to do, I guess. It's like the Garrison invasion quest and all that kind of stuff as well. You can do.
Yep.
I think it's a little bit of a shame. How the way I've experienced the world bosses we have right now, it feels like a lot of people are just ignoring them and just skipping them completely because it's kind of a bother. I feel like doing them. So maybe if they can bring the fight, we can bring the fight to us. Because that's like you're saying, a lot of people are AFKing in their garrisons at all times. So
can you imagine coming back from AFKing in your Garrison and there is a huge dude there, and you like, oh my god, I need friends.
There's Gruel just like chilling in the inn. Like, what's up? We doing this?
Now have they said what the bosses are going to be? I mean, do we know?
Not yet. I don't think so. It says players may find an item while completing a bounty, relic, dungeon, or raid daily quest from the Garrison visitor that allows them to summon one of 6 new raid or world bosses in the Garrison.
So they're all new.
Oh.
All new, I'm guessing? It's not going to be like the Lich King coming to your Garrison?
Right. Or Hans and Franz.
Arthas, I can't believe you're here. You're doing here? You were so 2 expansions ago, or 3.
Right.
So I would assume it's like themed bosses from around the like Frostfire Ridge, Spires, Nagan, and stuff like that. So
yeah, they've got to be outdoor bosses.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like they've had with the Shadow Moon invasions and stuff like that.
I like this though. I am psyched for this. This is
really cool. And the Garrison invasion stuff actually is a lot of fun. If you can go help your buddy defend his Garrison, that actually is a lot of fun. And you try to compete and go for gold, that is a lot of fun to do. So now you can fight a boss in his Garrison. That's insane. So I was pretty surprised at this, but it sounds like it's going to be fun. It sounds like it's going to be complete chaos. So we'll see.
Yes. That is for true. We also have some good news for alts out there, for all of your alts. We've got a couple of new things coming with patch 6.1 that I think are really cool. Number 1 is the Heirlooms Collections tab, which they've talked about. But it looks like you'll also be able to upgrade your heirlooms to level 100, up to level 100. So if you're leveling any new tune, you'll be able to, bring this gear all the way.
Which is awesome.
That's really cool. I'm digging that for sure. And there's more good news for alts. There's a lot of alt stuff this patch.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why. There is a shared turbulent items that are BOA tokens from Garrison missions that can be turned into eye level 630 gear for your alts. So once you hit 100, you can get free gear for all your alts. What's with all the alt stuff? Colt,
I think it's a great idea with the alt stuff, because having several alts myself, doing the whole Garrison stuff, it's the same grind every single time. I think they're making it easier for you to establish your garrisons, set your followers up, and gear them up as well.
Right.
And because right now it's just a 3-week grind, pretty much, just getting everything set up in a proper way on your alts.
Yeah. Colt, do you have a lot of alts going, or is it just the monk and the mage, right?
No, I got a monk. I'm doing all right. I got a monk. I can't remember right now. My gosh, but I've got a few. But right. Now just to double check here, this 630 gear. Yeah. This is for your character, right? Not your followers. This is for your character.
Correct.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, I've also got a Ret Pally actually. So, and I know Ret Pally, but they're so much fun. This expansion, they really are. Ret Paladins are just a ton of fun. But I really dig this because if this is like Timeless Isle. You know what I mean? How you could get those little armor specialization, those little tokens. Same deal here, but you can get them from Garrison missions is one way, and give them to your alt. So once he hits 100, boom, he can have 630 gear and be ready to do heroics, be ready to do maybe that first wing of LFR and see how he's doing gear-wise. So that's great, man.
Exactly. I know that LFR has been kind of the way that I gear up my alts, my hunter especially, and stuff like that. I just kind of go in wherever, and I'm just like, all right, I've got time right now. Let's go in and fight. And so now this makes it a heck of a lot easier, because I know that on my hunter even, I was not doing dungeons very much because it takes a long time. You have to wait in the DPS queue, and you have to. Yes. And so you're like, how else can I get gear? How else can I get gear that is not dungeons right now? So, and here's the solution for you. So that's cool.
Yeah, the follow quests for me always seem kind of weird, because it takes so much time to establish a garrison and get your followers up to level 100 that by the time you get these 615 items or whatever it is what the followers collect, you basically 630 geared already from just heroics.
Yeah, I think that the gear stuff from follower missions is always behind wherever you are. So it's just like, hey, are you missing this piece? If so, you can do this quest. And I'm like, why would I do a level 580 piece? Why would I do a mission for that when I'm at 600 or whatever, 630? We also have some changes for professions, and I think this just kind of proves that we're moving into the expansion. We're starting to get comfortable now, and now we're opening it up for alts and everything like that. We have 125 stat foods coming. We have alchemists can now transmute savage blood, which is a really good thing. Oh, actually, maybe I should do this. Big applause for that.
Woo! More savage blood, baby.
That's right. And we also have new quests to take Draenor materials and convert them into either primal spirits or 4 cooldown items. That is cool as well. So
that's huge.
Yeah, I think we're really starting to kind of get comfortable into this expansion now. I think that
especially because with this new, with 6.1 and all that stuff, those vendors are going to be offering new gear, much higher eye level gear, which makes me realize, like, why did I stop doing the daily cooldown? Because, because you do it at first like crazy, and then you get the gear you need, and you just assume, I thought that was just going to be the gear. It was going to stick on there. So I kind of stopped doing the daily cooldown, and now they're updating with much higher level gear. So now I'm like, all right, I got to get back going and making that the leather and all that stuff.
Well, do they ever stop? I guess they have before stopped with the professions at some point.
Yeah, I just remember like in Miss, like off the vendors, like, but this was back when we had those marks. Remember we had those, what were they called? Vanguard mark. What were those things called? Badges and all that stuff.
Oh,
anyway, that was a while ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, the gear was always like lower level. You know what I mean? I was up here and the gear from the vendors was down here. So it's nice, at least. And I guess they've introduced this. I don't know what I was thinking. I just stopped doing the daily cooldown.
Well, it makes sense. I'm
regretting it.
I stopped doing that as well. I'm having to pick it up. Now, Trekkie, what do you think about professions? I mean, from your standpoint, from being, one of the top raiders in the world, how have professions, have they gotten it right this time around, or how does it feel from your standpoint?
I think it's been pretty good. It's not really been a necessity as far as raiding goes, but in terms of preparing and gearing your character up, it's helped getting your materials and stuff you need for your gear. And I think that's a great idea. Like, that's like if you're a plate where you might want to, like, it gives you benefit for having blacksmithing, for example.
Right.
But you don't have to be a blacksmither to be able to get the items if you really, really want them anyway.
Right.
So I think that's the good approach. And if you want to have alts with the professions, that they can help your main, basically.
Yep. Yeah, I think they've gotten it better than they have in previous expansions at some point. So we'll just see. We'll monitor this situation and let you know what's happening with it. And there's one other thing for 6.1 that I want to talk to you about, because we know about we've found out about the Pepe thing, about the the quest for you have Pepe on your head for all these world bosses. You get, what is it called, Colt? It's like,
what a strange trans-dimensional trip it's been.
Right, and then you get an official Pepe hat anytime you want it. I don't know. And now we have something that I think may even top that. And I don't know whether it's the dumbest thing in the world or the coolest thing in the world. You guys can help me out. It's the selfie camera. The selfie camera is rewarded from the new mission field photography, and essentially it lets you take pictures of yourself.
Yes, but the greatest thing is that the selfie lens upgrade kit is a reward from Lens Some Hands. That's the name of the quest, I believe. I think it's a quest.
Right.
That's the greatest name of a quest I've heard in a while. Lens Some Hands.
And it even comes with filters. So you could do a sketch filter. You could do a black and white filter. You could do...
This is going to be great for like boss kill photos.
I don't know.
You know what I mean? It's fun. It's a toy. It's like one of those cool things. You can be black and white and all cool. And you can do all that Instagram crap that we see all the time, that people are like, oh, hey, look at this cool filter. I'm like a professional photographer now. Right. You can now do that in World of Warcraft. That's fantastic.
Well, and I suppose this goes with the whole tweeting from in-game thing that they're bringing in 6.1 as well. Now, Treky, what do you think about the tweeting in-game from in-game feature that's coming for 6.1?
I think it can be pretty well done. I don't know exactly what they're aiming for there. I think it's great for feedback and stuff like that, because that's a way the Blizzard developers have really felt like they want to like get instant feedback back and forth between players in a very good way compared to forum posts and stuff like that. So I think it's a good way, but I think it might just be overused if it's that easy to use as well. So it's going to be a lot of digging through to find useful comments, I think, in those tweets for the Blizzard.
All I can think about is that song. Let me take a selfie. You know the dance song? I don't know if you know it or not.
No,
it's called
I don't know.
Hashtag selfie, and it's horrible.
No, I'm not aware of that. Now, in the chat room, they were saying the selfie camera might be great in Battlegrounds. And I agree. That would be pretty cool. You take over, like you're in a Arathi base and you take over a point and boom, selfie. Like, check me out. Like, that's kind of cool.
I don't know. I think that we're going to see a lot of tweets come out like the first week or so of this feature, and then it's just going to die out. And like, you'll get a couple, sure, but in your feed, I think everybody will be doing it the first week, and then it'll be kind of like, I've stopped doing that.
Think about it like this. What if you could have contests like, all right, we will award this if you take a selfie with, such and such boss on his throne or something.
I see.
They've always had that like screenshot of the day before, haven't they?
Right.
Yes.
So they could bring that back if that right. I don't know, but selfie of the day. I don't know.
That could be fun, man.
I don't know.
Took a selfie with such and such boss.
I don't know.
That could be fun. That's cool. Like you're chilling next to Gruel while he's still alive. Like you're about to get pounced, but like boom, selfie right before he like smashes you.
Right.
That could be fun.
I don't know.
Possibilities.
I don't know. I think it might be the dumbest thing ever. But we'll find out. All right, that's it for the news. It's a quiet week again. I think that we'll see a lot more activity next week and the week after, especially as the new raid opens up and everything gets nerfed and figured out and people yell and scream about their classes again. So that'll be fun. But for right now, we'll go into some Leading the Raid.
Leading the Raid.
Yes, when we can, we take a look into leadership issues for raid leaders everywhere. This week, we'll take a look at a listener question. And Coltrane, can you help us out here?
Sure. This is from Jade Wynn, 100 Resto Shaman from Dalaran. Hey, Raiders, love the show. Listening to you all really gets me in the mood to down bosses every week. Due to my continued study, I've become healing lead for a team struggling to clear normal. Part of it has to do with the fact that few of the players raided very much in the last expansion, so I want to give them help. Part of it is due to the fact that few of the players raided very much in the last expansion, so I want to give them help in any way that I can. As a result, I've taken to poring over logs of each of our polls to try and figure out places to improve. But sometimes I'm at a loss as what to be looking for and how to interpret what I see. As experienced raiders yourselves, and with Treckie here, do you have any suggestions about how to get log savvy or anything else I can do to prepare as a role lead?
All right. There we go. So, Treky, what if somebody's just starting to look at logs and starting to kind of try to figure them out? What are some helpful hints that you have as they get going?
Personally, my personal advice, it might be just because I'm lazy with logs and stuff like that. My personal advice is really just fraps every try. And then go back and see what happened, and you can always see, like, that's how I like doing progress, because you can see what you did wrong, you can see what you could have planned better, and you can see a lot of timings and stuff as well if you're planning cooldowns.
Sure.
And a lot of times you just look at it, it's like, oh, something happened, it's like, could I have done this or whatever, and you're unsure about it when you actually die or when you wipe, and then you go back and check the fraps, and you see that, oh, I could have. So I should think about that if that situation would come up again.
Right.
If you're looking at logs, you could get the same information there, but I think it's slower, but you might get more information from the other people.
There is
right,
yourself. Yeah, and I think that's kind of key too, especially as a role lead when you're trying to cover an entire area. You might not see everything happening, but that's where logs will come in handy. And if you have an account at Warcraft logs, I just want to tell you about one cool thing that those guys have. They may have them on different sites as well. I don't know. But we use Warcraft logs. And one of the things that they have is they have a summary. It's really easy. And especially as you're just kind of diving into things, you can actually see what happens in these summaries. And it will tell you not only some of the big mechanics of the fight. It'll break it down and kind of what it does. It'll also tell you who did it or did not get themselves involved with these mechanics. So it'll tell you who's screwing up. It'll tell you what's going on. It'll give you a better idea without having to dive into the numbers too much. Because when you're first starting out, the numbers can be a little intimidating. So...
yeah, and that summary thing is amazing because it's a quick glance type thing. It literally on the summary page will say, this ability will kill you and players should not stand in this.
Right.
The following players stood in it. And then it's like boom, boom, boom. And how many times they stood in it. Yeah. So you can whisper them privately and be like, hey, make sure you're not standing in the blah, blah, blah. Or say it out loud if you wish. But it's kind of a nice, easy, quick at a glance. Oh, so-and-so, he stood in this thing 16 times. Maybe I should mention it to him. Hey, watch out for this ability. This is why you're dying, or this is what's hurting the raid each time. So it's a great feature in Warcraft logs. And that fraps thing is really interesting. I hadn't thought of that. That's a great point.
But then you have to like go through it and look at all the tape so to speak, and that takes time, and especially if you're at work or something like that and trying not to work. So you're like, okay, let me check out the logs here. The boss isn't looking. All right. It would be weird if they came around the corner and saw you watching a video.
No, it's more for personal improvement, right. I think, for Fraps. If you're looking at, like, as a role leader, you want to see, like you said, like, you want to see if people are making mechanics right. You might not be looking at people pulling the numbers. They should be pulling right off the bat, you know. You just need to make sure that if there's an ad you need to kill, people are switching to it. People aren't just tunneling the boss, and you can break that down in logs, like looking at this time, this person was still, like, DPSing the boss or whatever, or full-time on the boss.
Yep.
Or like Culture was saying, standing in fire, you're doing stuff that's not helping the raid. And you can easily see that by damage taken and all that kind of stuff from World of Logs. So
yeah, actually watching damage taken and by source is actually one of the big things too. Especially as a healing lead, you want to take a look at how people are taking damage. I think that's one of the other keys, and I think that every raid leader should be looking at that as well. Not just, you know, it should be who's dying to what. How many ticks of whatever are they getting? What mechanics are we failing at? These are the types of things, instead of looking at DPS numbers or HBS numbers or something like that. I mean, that's the way you compare one person to another person, but that won't determine your team getting through, especially if you're working on any kind of progression. Doesn't matter.
I would say it's an interesting thing now rating Mythic. I'm finding that I'm getting a bigger sense of pride in the damage taken list, that if I'm low on that list.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. Like, and you're right. I mean, that's the big thing that I've learned in Mythic, is that it's about the mechanics. It's not about how much DPS you do or how much healing you do. It's about the mechanics. It's about taking the least amount of damage possible. If you can get the mechanics, you'll down the boss. You know, it's not all about high DPS, because if you're failing the mechanics, the whole raid's going to wipe. But I'm finding myself, this is the first time ever, I'm really looking at that damage taken and be like, oh, hey, sweet, I'm near the bottom of the list. All right, cool, you know.
Well, you know, if you die early on the fight, you can't take that much damage, so that's the thing.
Right. It's just that
valid point.
It's just that one little bit, and then you're fine.
That's my strategy. I die at the pole, and then brag about my damage taken. Like, you just, come on, look. Yeah. Brilliant. Good point.
Exactly. No, but I think that there are some things to look at, and I think that we've kind of hit on those major things. And another thing, just to point out about the Warcraft log summary thing, details, is that sometimes what will happen is, like, for enfeebling roar for the twins, you want to actually stand in that, but not if you have the arcane explodey thing on you. So in Warcraft logs, it'll say, okay, these people did not stand in enfeebling roar, and they also did not have this arcane explodey thing around them. So there's no excuse for them.
Right.
That's one of the things that I really like about it. So
arcane volatility, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. Anything else on this, fellas? Because otherwise,
sounds about right.
Otherwise, we'll just move it on to the mailbag.
We've got mail.
We do. And if you have a question about anything for us about raiding or anything else, just let us know. We'll try to answer it on the show. You can email us at converttoraid@gmail.com or call our raid line, 612-787-RAID. First up, we have a phone call from the other side of the pond.
Hello, Convert to Raid. This is Coop from Azure Mr. EU from across the pond with a major frustration with Warlords of Destruction. I play a nearly 650 level warrior, and what was this about just carry one set of gear around with you, don't fill your bags? How come my bags are brimming over the edge? Because I've got tanky gear, I've got DPS gear with these totally different secondary stats, and then I'll tell you what, I'll have a little dabble of PvP. What's this? Gear that boosts itself to 675 or something or another. It's like, there's another 12, 30, 40 pieces sets of blooming gear. My bags are full of gear, and these switching secondary stats, that means, you know, a nice paladin can be a DPS with its strength and then just switch spec to healing, and there it's got intellect. No use to me as a warrior. What the hell's intellect there to secondary stat for me? Just a little grumble, to be honest. See what your thoughts are, and how many other people have carried literally 3 sets of gear around with them as well. So that's my rant over. Wondering about your thoughts. Thanks.
All right, so we're talking about
that guy's
gear.
Awesome.
That was an awesome phone call. That was
that guy's awesome.
So we're talking about gear here, and you know, they really did make it seem awesome at BlizzCon 2013, when they were talking about this new switch with the gear. Oh, your strength gear can be intellect gear or whatever you need. But now we're still running around with all this gear. Trekkie, are you finding that this is true for you?
Well, I play one spec and one spec only,
I
so I don't
suppose.
have to have an issue with that. But I think the thing about the gear scale as changing is I think a lot to do with loot distribution during raid. It's so that you don't have that issue that this is a piece that no one will want ever because we don't have anyone using that role. Especially for the weird like plate healers, which there's only one class of.
Right.
I don't think like if you're going for one spec and if you want to optimize, it's not meant for optimizing and perfecting every single spec. You don't want that one piece. This helm, it's best for when I PvP as Holy, it's best when I PvP as Brett, it's best when I PvE as Prot, it's also best when I PvE as Holy. It's not supposed to be the best of the best at all times.
Right.
So you want to go for those different secondary stats for whatever happens to be best for the spec you play the most.
It's tough though because I mean you get like he was talking about you have your PvP gear, you have your tank gear, you have your I don't know. Colt, are you finding this to be true?
Yeah, it's a funny thing. Let's just talk about monks real quick. Windwalkers, mastery. Mastery for Windwalkers, horrible, like terrible stat, the worst thing you could ever want.
Right.
But for Brewmasters, it's great.
Okay.
Love me some mastery for a Brewmaster. So I'm holding on to gear, just like if you guys ever need a third tank, or if I ever need to tank on my Brewmaster,
Right.
I can switch to this because it's covered in mastery. But on a Windwalker, it's completely useless. So yes, this one set of gear, it's switching and that kind of thing. But it's a funny thing, I think, I think it's different for like, well, the healers and that kind of thing. But yeah, the same thing's happening for monks. Windwalker mastery, terrible. Brewmaster mastery is fantastic.
It makes switching those armor pieces a lot better, but I do find that I'm carrying around probably about 6 or 7 trinkets. I'm carrying around I don't know how many different other, non-armor pieces I'm carrying around, but I have probably about 20 pieces of gear in my bag at any time. Just cuz.
Right.
Just cuz I don't know if I'm going to go
Yeah,
PvP because I do have PvP gear, so.
How was it before Warlords?
The same. It was the same.
Then it's at least not. It's not worse. It might not be much of an improvement, but it's not worse.
You're right. It's not worse. It's it's the same as it was before Warlords. But they sold it as this thing that was going to happen. And
look at Cold, for example. Like Windwalker, you have gear that you want, like for Windwalker, right? And how often do you actually tank? And when you do tank, your Windwalker gear will be fine to tank with. Because you're probably not gonna run in there and jump in like, hey, I'm gonna be the third tank on Brackenspore or whatever, right?
Right.
So you're gonna do like heroics, you're gonna do 5-mans, maybe the odd normal or heroic, and then it's fine having optimal gear to tank that because you're already like, well, you're not as familiar with the spec anyway, so
Right. Yeah.
like you're not maximizing the gear that you would have anyway.
Yeah, you're right. So for it makes off specs be viable in any, no matter what you play and how much gear you have. It makes off specs viable, which is great. And really the biggest saver of bag space in Warlords of Destruction has been the reagent bank.
Yeah.
That's where I'm saving my bank space.
Right.
There, my bag space. Oh my gosh.
But I will say, like, for people that are healers, like if you're a paladin and there's plate gear and you can switch it and now it has intellect versus not intellect, like that's a huge improvement. And I remember I played a pally a little bit in Wrath of the Lich King, and I literally had all these different sets of gear. I had intellect gear, I had, my prop pally gear, I had ret. It was insane. So I think that it has improved. I think more so for like healers, maybe. But I mean, when you can turn on that intellect thing, that's great, and you had to have that had to be a separate bag space that is no longer there. So
Right.
Monks were always kind of the same. They had agility gear. You could do the same either way. But like, if I want to go healing with my paladin right now, it's like if the way it was before, it's like, okay, well, I need to actually, because I haven't been gathering this, I have to actively run dungeons or raids to get intellect gear to even start trying. And now I can just like, okay, I need a main hand maybe and trinkets could be nice, but I could just just change that around, get a weapon, and then try healing. Like, just get the feel for it.
Yep. It's pretty cool. And I'm finding out the same thing coming from a healer. Now that I switched over to kitty spec as my off spec, I'm finding kind of the same thing. Is even with my intellect, weapon, I was still able to down things and kill, stuff around my garrison and any of the quest stuff, because my other gear was pretty good. So no problems there. So when I got the weapon, things went down a lot faster, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's for sure. Let's get to another question here. I'm going to jump down a little bit, and we'll go to the one from Psydated, which says, what's one feature or mechanic you wish WoW never added? Explain why and give a suggestion to fix. All right, so Treckie, is there one particular mechanic or feature that you wish had never been made in WoW?
I guess they fixed it now, but Vengeance was
Vengeance, yeah.
something I really hated. I was not a fan of that at all, and it didn't work out in a very good way either, and that's why they obviously changed it.
Right.
And yeah, I wish that never really came around.
Right. Coltrane, how about you?
I this is going to cause a lot of controversy. Flying. I love me some non-flying now in Warlords. I really do, because it adds another layer of gameplay, which is puzzles, jumping puzzles, various things that you couldn't have before. Now, on the other hand, when I'm in Shadow Moon Valley and I need to get to the top of this dang mountain, and I could easily just fly right up there, but instead I got to go all the way around to find the path. Then it's frustrating, and I wish I had it. But I think that for me, the world feels a lot more epic and big, and I see a lot more people. I see a lot more people on the ground. In Wrath of the Lich King, with everybody flying up high and all that stuff, I never saw anybody. It didn't feel like a big, massively multiplayer online game, because everyone's in the sky, everyone's in the air.
Yep.
But here, everyone's on the ground, they're in it, they're doing it. I can see people everywhere, so I wish they never added flying, and I'm glad that they took it out.
Yeah.
And I understand that a lot of passionate people about that, but that's just my opinion.
Well, and that was going to be my answer as well. So look at that.
There you go.
So look at that. I'm totally fine with not flying, because, well, and especially because they have toys like Aviana's Feather and stuff like that, where you can actually fly for a short period of time and get to where you need to go. Because I know that I was doing some of the Garrison quest line this week. There was one quest that was bugged out for me. It was the one in Shatrith. So you had to go to Shatrith and click on the flag or on the banner, and then fight the dude, Sokrathar or whatever his name is. And that was bugged out for me, as it was for many, many people. Should be fixed now, by the way. But instead of trudging my way down through all the mobs and seeing if it was fixed, I just hit Aviana's Feather, flap way up in the air, and then take way too long to fly down to this place. So,
Right.
So, but it was cool, and because of toys like that, it makes the having not flying so much easier.
It's not actually a toy, which is the annoying part.
Oh, that's right. It's not a toy. It's a thing that you have to click on in your bag.
item or something.
Yeah. And now they're actually going to do even more with flying, because now we're going to actually have, for 6.1, they're going to have a little button that says, "Hey, please land at the next stop." So you can just land at the next place, and then so it makes flying a little bit easier. You don't have to go to your final destination all the time.
That's
so
awesome.
You could always log out as well, and they would.
Yeah, but that's a pain, man.
Yeah, it is.
Logging out, logging back in. Ugh. Please.
I just remember in Myst, man, I would have a quest objective, and I'd get on my mount, I'd go up high, I'd hit auto fly, and the whole world would be empty underneath me, and then I just land, kill it, get back up, and fly over. I don't know. That's not epic. That's not big. I don't know. So I like the no flying personally.
Right on. Yeah, I know. I'm a big fan of that, and I know that a lot of people aren't, and I know that that's kind of it is what it is. So
yes, little controversy. Controversy is good though. Different opinions. It's good. It's good.
Yes. And I think that we might just that just might be it for this week.
All right.
So we'll play the music. We'll get the music going.
Excellent.
And we'll give a shout out to listeners who gave us 5-star review on iTunes, and I do have them here because Darius is not here now that he's in Texas.
He's getting the Pax Plague as we speak.
Yes. Indeed.
You know, were you there? There was one year where they had that, that VR headset, right? You put on.
Yeah, I was there.
Well,
the Oculus.
Please go ahead.
It was the Oculus, and it was so it was the VR headset and stuff like that, and a bunch of people got pink eye from this thing.
Can you imagine? So one guy puts it on with pink eye, then gives it to 300 other people.
And it was
put it on after.
And it was at the Oculus booth, so it was like the hottest booth of the place. So, and this was at PAX Prime in Seattle.
That's rough, man. That's rough.
Yeah, it definitely was. All right, so for this week, we have 5-star reviews from Tank Nasty 666, Core Gaming 21, and Kerosene Kid. Kerosene Kid sounds like a Wild West name. The Kerosene Kid. Yeah, I don't know.
Awesome.
But thank you guys for the reviews. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to actually. Oh wait, do we have any shout outs this week, fellas?
Big shout out obviously to the CTR Guild. Just fantastic. Congratulations. That's just fantastic news, and all the event planners and everything. It's an amazing thing when you log in and you look at that in-game calendar. And there's just events planned and all the stuff on the forums and all this stuff. It's really incredible. So big shout out to the guild and congrats. It's good.
Really is. Any other shout outs this week? I'm trying to think.
Treckie, any shout outs?
Anybody you want to shout out to?
Homies in Sweden? My
homies.
peeps?
Peeps in Sweden.
I wonder if I still know anyone here lives here.
Like everybody you know is around the globe and not actually in your hometown.
They're sleeping at the wrong time. I don't get it.
Right. No, I got
That's
it.
right. You're international now, man. You've gone global.
All right. Well, I'm going to take this time to bail on the music.
Whoa, you're just going to bail out?
Yeah, I'm just going to bail out
of that?
and let's play this one.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Thank you guys for the reviews. Thanks for watching us on iTunes, doing all those types of things. And if you want to get involved in any conversation that we're having, you can do so real easy. You can email us at converttoraid@gmail.com. You can call us and leave comments and questions on our raid line, 612-787-RAID. That's 612-787-7243. You can follow us on Twitter at converttoraid, or even individually, right, Coltrane?
You can follow Pat Crane at Pat Crane. You can follow Coltrane at _Coltrane. You can follow Dairies at Bored Mind. And Treky, how do we follow you?
Twitch.tv/Treckie or Treky Wow at Twitter.
Yeah, you changed your Twitter handle.
Excellent.
Treky Wow now.
Love it.
And don't forget, you guys can join the Bazooba Guabo Nation anytime by heading over to converttoraid.com, where we have show downloads, we have forums, we have tons of links for raiders, we have our videos, we have our audios, and so much more. It's all over at converttoraid.com. Our live feed and video show is on gamebreaker.tv. Make sure to watch, like, comment, share, subscribe, all the YouTube-y things that you can do over there. And our audio show is on Stitcher and the internet. It's all over the internet. So make sure to get it. And if you can't find it, how are you listening to us right now? That's the important thing.
How are you doing this?
The Convert to Raid podcast is produced and distributed by Signals Media. Make sure to check out all of our friends over the Signals Media All-Star Network at signalsmedia.com. And that's going to be it for the show. Trekkie, thank you so much for all of your guidance, your insight, your I don't know, your awesomeness,
your Trekkiness.
That's it.
And I will say, for you guys out there, you need to check out Trekkie's stream. His stream is fantastic. It's great content. It's relaxing. I don't know. It's very soothing. You got the music. It's fun. It's informative. It's a really, really great stream. So you guys should definitely check it out. Twitch.tv/ what is it again?
Treckie.
It's just Trekkie. That's
Treckie.
Right. And that's going to do it for the show. So thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. We'll see you at our next show next week. Regular time, 11 a.m. Central. And for all the guys that Convert to Raid, bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Yay.